type, un dimanche, propose à sa femme d'aller faire un tour à la rue Saint-André. Tout le monde savait que c'était la rue des putains. Jocelyne le savait comme les autres. Elle accepta pourtant.
Hello. Hello out there. I don't think anybody's out there yet, but that's okay. I still have a reading I want to put out here. And I'll see if there we go. My mic's working. Okay. Okay. So I'm good. I'm live. I think everything's working. Earlier this morning, I really wanted to go live, but I didn't have anything set up, and I think it would have been a better time. So if anybody happens to see this later and you think that earlier on a Saturday would be better or later on a Saturday would be better, please let me know. I'm not entirely sure when I want to do these, so I'm trying to figure out a time frame and which days, and I don't know if I want to be able to just do it anytime. A lot of demands there. But a couple of the topics that I want to talk about today the subject matter kind of stems from some of the last conversations that took place, and then in light of a few events that have occurred since then, that I just feel like these would be good tools um, for individuals to have. So I don't want to get too much into it. So yeah, the topic is grounding, shielding, and cutting cords. And then I have this reading I'm going to work throughout the course of the stream as well, and see what happens. But I think that it'll resonate whenever you get an opportunity to hear it. So I don't want to, you know, waste a bunch of time dilly-dallying, I guess. I'd rather just get the stream done and let somebody come back and listen. So I'm going to talk to myself for a little while, I guess. That's why. Oops. Sorry about the traumatic noises. I think it's important anytime you're about to do a reading or hear a reading too, that you just take a few moments to do some grounding and kind of establish what your intent is, what you're doing here, what is the goal of this. Where are you really and truly right now, honestly? Like, where are you emotionally, mentally? When you sit down to do this reading, it's important to be honest with yourself. And so sometimes if we're not ready to be, we'll do a reading and it'll feel a little harsh. So we talked a little bit about that last time. And one of the techniques that I use before I do a reading is a grounding. But I do 3 of them. There's a grounding, a shielding, and a cord cutting. And I use them often, daily. They're really beneficial to getting a more honest reading and impression from your cards if you ground yourself first, especially for other people. If you don't read for other people, that might not be as necessary as, as it is to me and what I do every day. I have to be grounded, which means that sometimes my clients wait a little ways for their readings. Unfortunately, they always come at the right time. They really do. But anyway, see if anybody pops in the next few minutes. I will meander a little bit and chat a little bit about this reading. Seems like over the last few days it went from people were seeing and feeling a lot of relief and a lot more easy to breathe. They were seeing the light, and then we have like this little bump in the road, and it's really hitting harder because like we thought we were through it, and that's where it gets even tougher. So that's what this reading is about. It's about these bumps in the road and how we are to go through them. What their intent is, and whether or not we're doing what we need to do to take the fullest version of living out of the experience. Let's see if anybody comes in or not. I don't think so today. This afternoon. But I'd like the reading to be here for later anyway, so if you have had a rough day, this reading is going to be for you. And we're going to talk about the tools that will help you with them. This draw that I've got here, see if you can see. Yeah, I can see all 5 of them. There's 5 positions here. And they correspond with the pentacle. So it's a pentacle spread, but I'm just laying it out flat so you can see it better. So when we're looking at this first position, we're talking about the foundation and earth, fire, will, desires, air, life as it comes naturally at us, water, life as we have choices, and then the spiritual guidance and advice is the 5th position. So this gives you the complete picture of what these cards are explaining. It's kind of the who, what, when, where, why of the situation. A little bit different than the last reading I did with the past, present, future. If you're hearing noise, I apologize. That's Mui, my dog, the Chewini. He's very needy and he wants to be in the room with me, but he just is making a fuss because I'm not paying attention to him and I'm talking. So I just realize I'm just talking to a camera. So this reading, we're starting with the 9 of Swords in the foundation position. This is talking about where you may be feeling that you have been completely ungrounded, that what you thought was heading in the right direction has temporarily taken a derailment. At least that's what it feels like. It's painful. It's very raw because the last wounds were so recent and you felt like you were getting a chance to heal, and then it just kind of whopped you. And you're not alone in that. There's a lot of people that are feeling that for a lot of different situations. It's just simply some shifting and tumbling around. It's a little bit of turbulence. It's not here to stay. But that's how it feels like. Because we're like back in drama response. We're back in drama mode. We're back in I need to be afraid, and I am ashamed or disgusted. I feel guilt. I feel terror. I am back in that mode where I just feel like I thought I was breaking this cycle. Why am I here again? So there's a lot of negative self energy there. And what this is and what this represents is this period where we are actually learning to integrate the shadow and the light selves, where we have to face out in the open these things that make us feel like we're suffering, that are causing our suffering. So we have to examine this. What are these feelings? Why do I feel this shame? And we really need to question it in a very, very direct way, in a way that perhaps we haven't really been brave enough to do before. Because we need to understand that if we do not challenge our deepest, darkest emotions, we are never able to actually become wiser and learn from them. So it's really, really, really critical that we challenge these ideas about sex, about desire, about about success and worth and what value is. Everybody has kind of ended up in this position of feeling very, very ungrounded and not entirely sure of what to. You're gonna see right through it because of the green screen. Oh well. It looks cool though. So that's the Nine of Swords. It's what we're facing right now. It's what we're feeling right now, that heaviness. It is pushing you to question these things and to move beyond these past experiences and traumas that have continued to come back in these cycles. We have to actually examine them in order for them to move on. So we move into the desire, the will position, the fire position. This is what it is that we're looking for, what we really, really want out of life right now. This is what we're asking for. This is what our prayers are. This is what we're begging for when we open our eyes and when we close them in. The Ten of Wands is about carrying the burdens. There is a point in every adventure where it just gets to like the climax of it. It is the biggest piece, the biggest, strongest point. The most is happening. You're in the middle. It's in the chaos of it. And some of us are a little bit of adrenaline junkies. So when we're realizing our dreams, there's this that high point, that climax. But then we recognize very, very, very quickly that there is a consequence for us achieving that. There's always some flip side to the coin, to the situation. There's always balance. So when we reach the climax in one area, we now have to expect that in order to continue going, it gets more difficult. It actually doesn't get easier. We're always kind of given this like idea that we're going to reach this point and it's just going to be so much easier. It never gets easier. And you can ask anybody that's very, very successful at it. And I'll tell you that it doesn't get easier. It doesn't all of a sudden that their lives become simple once they make enough money. That's not what you're waiting for. You think that's what's going to happen. They tell you that's what's going to happen. That's how they keep you on the hamster wheel. Instead of enjoying your life and finding these deeper, more spiritual meanings in life that ultimately will give you more satisfaction out of it. The relationships that you have with individuals, the time that you're spending with individuals, rather than seeking these material things that aren't going to give you that satisfaction. You have to pay attention to that. Life is always movement, right? Happiness is not a destination, it's a station. And the process of station to station is how you maintain it when life is always moving. If you stay stagnant, you're just simply not going to find that same joy. It's going to get old. So sometimes you find a way to get this movement in one aspect of life, and you can have a little bit of stability in the rest, and you find a lot of balance in that. But there are times that's just not possible. Things just aren't compatible. We have to find a way to adapt to whatever is coming at us because we have to move to that next station. And in that adaptation of whatever you need to be doing, you're coming to terms with and accepting and finding some positives and some good things about this. And if you're not, then maybe you need to be relooking at your choices. Change is really constant. There's no continuous realm that just stays in place. That's just not how it works ever. And we know this, even though we just beg for it to stop sometimes. Just stop. Please just give me a break. I want off this roller coaster just for a minute. I just want to get my bearings. And that's just not the nature of life. We will find periods where we can rest, but we find them when we rest our hearts and minds in nature and in connection with others. That's where the rest is. So, once we accept these things, like once we actually accept the idea that there's no break from that, it's not like it just ends all of a sudden, it just stops being hard or things stop happening. Like one day, all the people that are going to die are going to stop dying. No, that's not how it works. We lose people unexpectedly very often throughout our lives. And unfortunately, the older we get and the better we get at it, it seems like the more it happens. So it doesn't stop. You're not going to get a break from feeling grief. You're going to just learn to work through it a little easier. Like once you've come to accept that grief is also a part of life, because we grieve for what we loved, right? That's the balance. It's not hate. The opposite of love is not hate. It's grief. It's anguish. Love is giving and selfless. Grief is taking and selfish. But it's the balance. And once we accept that balance, it does feel a lot lighter. It feels like a lot less burden. It feels like less because you just stop having these expectations that it's going to be this like exact thing. And it just is. And then it's okay because you didn't try to like make it. It just was, and it wasn't as bad as you could have imagined. So that's a good thing. You know, the idea here is that we have to learn to lighten the load. When we get to where we feel really good, it is not time to add more burden because it's going to get harder. It's actually time to lighten the pack. That's what you're supposed to be doing right now. Lighten the pack. If it's not necessary, if it's not to your highest benefit, you should not be trying to take this with you because you have to continue. There's another push. There's one more push to reach where you need to go. So you have to keep pushing. Don't take the extra with you. Lighten the load. Take some of that extra stuff off. Take some of that weight off of you. Understand that it's not going to do you any good to get to the top of your next challenge having carried the weight of all these expectations with you the entire time. There's no benefit to that. It's only greater disappointment. So you move on. Now, when we get into the 5 of Wands, I didn't show the 10 of Wands. Show the 10 of Wands. This is the Starman Bowie deck, by the way. Now, in the next position, and I cannot see that one right on this one either from my green screen. Cannot see. There we go. I tried. The 5 of Swords. The 5 of Swords. This is a want that sorry about that. Okay. So the 5 of Swords is coming forward for us. There's good and bad to this. It's always balanced. The theme is always balanced. I'm just going to put the theme is always balanced. That's what the name of the show is. That's where we're going always. So as we come forward in our win, because we know that we need to make that last push. And now we're being reassured and validated that it is okay to drop that extra weight as we make this last push. What the Five of Swords says is that we want to win sometimes, and not all of us, but sometimes it just, you want to win at any cost. And that cost is bigger than you realize. Your desire to win cannot, because you're going to throw it off balance. You have to be very, very careful. You cannot lose perspective of being in the other position, of being in the process. You may pass by others who are at a different part in their own personal struggle, and you will be leaving carnage in your wake if you do not take care and be cautious as you work your way to your goal. This is not every man for himself. That's not what is going on here, and that is not going to benefit you. If you are only focused on the outcome, you are missing entirely the journey, and you're gonna not have the same kind of satisfaction when you get there as a result. So it really just kind of cuts away at your life, because that's all you're thinking about constantly. You're not living in the present when you're focused on a goal that's like way down that way. If you already know what that goal is, then your actions every day should be working towards that, and that's what you're doing. So you don't have to constantly see the end result. You should know what it feels like because you're working on it. You're in the middle of working on it. But you should not be compulsive to win where you're not seeing and feeling everything else that's going on around you. So this is coming forward for us in the near future. This is something we're going to have to contend with, that we're going to have to make sure that we are not throwing aside those that love us and that we love dearly, in order for us to gain some advantage. There will be no advantage if that's the situation. So you are not supposed to allow these events to pile up like bodies around you. You need to be present in your life and with your friends and your family, and that is a part of the journey. That is fortifying the journey along the way. So be there, be present, be a part of the journey, be immersed in it, and be very, very careful that you're not just trampling over the feelings of others, especially the ones that care tremendously about you, because we need them. We need them to help hold us up when we get way up there. The next position that comes up is, I have notes, sorry. When I do a reading, I always take notes, and then I do an audio recording of the reading for the client so they can hear me elaborate on all the things. But I take the notes when I'm initially looking at the cards, so I don't miss anything, because otherwise I'll be talking in circles forever. So it's really important that I get through and then elaborate. Don't miss anything that way. So this one we're looking at here, Seven of Swords. Seven of Swords. This position is water. This is where our choices lie. This is where we have our free will. This is where we exert free will in any situation. So this card is about desire in a lot of ways, wanting what another person has, seeing their life and saying, this is mine, this is for me, without being aware or conscious of the fact that what you're seeing is not real. You're seeing a deception. You're seeing a lie. So if you get too caught up in wanting what somebody else has, it's impossible for you to see that they're not being fully honest with what you're seeing. You're not really seeing what they have. And you're desiring this thing, and the universe is trying to tell you you don't actually want that thing, but you're just like, no, yes, I do. I want that. You become a little bit obsessed with it, and that is where we have that energy that leads to that downward spiral out of control. That leads to your downfall, period. Wanting what somebody else has without even really knowing what it is that they have. You don't know. You might think you know, but you don't know what others really have and how they view it, because every single person can look at the same thing and see something different and experience and feel something different. So you don't want what anyone else has. You want what is for you. What is for you. That's what you're going for. You have to ask yourself those tough questions and get really, really into it. And what is it that I actually want? What is it that I do not want? Because while you're looking at everybody else's life, you're probably seeing that too, if you were looking for it. For every relationship that you see that looks perfect, if you look a little bit closer, you'll see the jabs at each other. You'll see where they're trying to like make it fit, but they're not actually happy. There's always something where people are struggling. You might have two people that don't feel, or one person that doesn't feel supported in a relationship, and you look at it and say, oh, it's perfect. And meanwhile, the one person goes home and cries himself to sleep every night. But you think it looks good because it does in public. It's not how life works. Everybody's behind closed doors lives are a lot different than what they are in public, even when they are on social media. And that's a whole different conversation. But you have to have the courage to meet this head on. You have to look at this directly and be like, what am I doing to myself? I'm desiring and wanting what another person has. All that does is attract more of that energy of desiring and wanting what someone else has. You have to acknowledge what it is that you want, but also be willing to look at your own patterns and see where it is that you're actually not taking the actions that you should be, making the choices that you should be in order to have what it is that you truly want. You would rather have what that person has because you're a little bit afraid of being honest about what it actually takes out of you to have what you truly ultimately want and feel like you deserve. You're trying to take something you haven't earned yet. That's why you're looking at somebody else and what they've got and saying, I want that. Because you know that what you have over here takes a little bit more work from you. My cat's going to try to get in here again for a minute. I apologize for the scratching. In order to progress beyond this cycle, what this card is saying to us right here is saying, in order to break this pattern, break this cycle, we have to start restoring integrity to your own self-talks and your own goals, so that when you're speaking to your higher self, you're speaking to yourself about yourself rather than about others. And dealing with what their lives are like, or what you think their lives are like, instead of your own. You have to make a choice to confront your own patterns and make the choice, instead of jealousy, envy, and wanting what someone else has. That's a choice. So with this one, the trying to be coveting. Eight of Cups. This is our advice card. Put this card here. Eight of Cups. We just lay down. The advice card comes in, and we have this indication that what's truly necessary right now, and for you to break this cycle and not have so many road bumps, is to prepare yourself for a time frame where you are truly examining these things, where you are taking time in nature, if at all possible, disconnecting from the day-to-day life. You have to get away from what your routine is. That's the point of this. Okay, so if what you're doing is just going to your same old spot, so that's not what this is talking about. This is talking about breaking your pattern and preparing yourself for a actual like quest to find the answers to this, so that you can actually have what it is that will make you happy, what you want truly, what it is that you're missing. You have to get a little bit deeper than what you've been doing. The card says you're not really doing the work. I'm calling people out. I know I am. I'm calling myself out right now. That's how it works. Believe me, card readers get worn out because we get sick of hearing all the shh about ourselves. There's more work to do, and you're trying to skip steps. You're trying to do the easy one when you know the challenge is ultimately more satisfying when you reach the end of that. Ultimately, you know, when you get to the end of that road, when you win that one, that's the one that's going to feel good. But it takes more work. And you have to let go of them burdens you've been dragging along with you. Some heavy negative energy from individuals probably don't have the same kind of goals that you do. They have goals that might look like they're similar, but they don't have the same morals. And you can try to pretend all you want that there's some, and you find some way to align it. That's not how it works. You've outgrown some things, and you're trying to carry them with you to the top of your next goal and accomplishment. You're taking pants 3 sizes too small, like, or 3 sizes too big, maybe. That's the better way to say it. By the time you get to the top, you're not going to need them. Why are you taking them with you? And it's not about leaving behind connections, people, and meaning. It's about leaving behind bullshit. As we age, what is fun and what is fulfilling and what feels good to our heart and our soul changes. You might get some brief satisfaction out of certain kinds of engagements, but other engagements are going to be a lot more fulfilling and more long lasting. So this 8 of Cups is wanting you to really seek some answers. It's telling you that it's been giving you answers in your dreams. Are you not paying attention? I think you should be paying more attention. Just pay attention. Just like stop shoving it back and just give it a chance to ponder, and do it in nature outside of your normal routine. Try some different company, maybe even, or no company if you're used to company. Ultimately, the goal is, in order to really break through this, the card is saying that you need to go to some mental sacred space, to some physical sacred space, where you can get into a mental sacred space, so that you can find the wisdom that exists in the situations at hand, and then you will be able to make a better choice about it, and you'll be able to take better steps towards what's next. So that is the card reading for today. For whomever it speaks to, it is for you in whatever way that it speaks to you. Some tools, though, that will help you along the way. As I mentioned earlier in the stream, grounding. Grounding is so necessary on a regular basis. It should be happening every single day, if not several times a day, sometimes if needed. But if you can't make time for it every day, you're really just making excuses. It takes about 10 seconds to do what you need to do. Grounding. Now, the best way to go about it is going to be outdoors, but it's not always possible. So strike that requirement from your mind immediately. It's all about your mind and what you're physically and energetically pulling in. You want to, however, remove as many barriers between you and a natural surface as possible. So if you're sitting in a chair like this, you would put your feet flat on the ground, maybe remove your shoes and socks. If there's a bare wood floor, a nice carpet, you want to just kind of have that like connection with the surface. You need to feel stable. And sometimes if we're wearing thick socks or big shoes or anything, you're not going to necessarily get that same effect from it. If you can go outside and take your shoes and socks off and touch the earth or water, that is ultimately, that's the best. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is the intent. So you put yourself into a stable position. And I recommend if you're sitting in a chair that you kind of have your knees spaced about shoulder width apart, just kind of a natural, relaxed, comfortable position. Your arms are naturally bent with your hands just kind of draped over your thighs or knees, wherever it's comfortable, or off to your sides if that's comfortable, wherever they can just naturally fall and it doesn't feel awkward, right? Because you don't want to have to control your arms. You're going to let energy flow through your body. So you need to be supported by what you're sitting in or what you're sitting on with minimal energy. So if it, say you're outside and you're sitting in the grass, you can sit in a cross-legged situation and you'll be very stable there. Your just a little bit of core energy will keep you upright. So that also works. There's no real like rules to this. It's just about what feels stable. If the only way that you feel stable right now because you're struggling greatly is to lay flat down on your bed, then do that. Or better yet, if you can lay down on the ground or outside, or even just near some sunlight. We want to get into a position where you feel very stable. So once you're in that stable position, you want to first start taking a few deep breaths. And this can take any length of time, whatever it takes, for you to just get to a normal breathing state. You should not be still huffing and puffing from running around, cleaning your house, or anything of that nature. You want to bring all your breath in now. Just sit for a few moments and get so that you're just breathing normally. And then you're going to just kind of start counting your inhales and your exhales. Now, I recommend something about 5 seconds inhale to 7 seconds exhale, exhale. But you will notice that over time, you can progress much farther than this. And when you sleep, you actually breathe much slower than this as well. So it's natural when you don't have the oxygen requirements going on. But with this, you just want to bring it to what is comfortable. I always just recommend you just try to count. And after every, say, 10 breaths, you try to get one more farther into it. Do that for maybe 2 minutes. Just breathing nice and slow and slowing your breath as much as possible. And then once you've reached this point where you feel like you are just very naturally, slowly, calmly breathing in, you want to start taking note of your senses. You want to pay attention first to your feet. Where are you grounded? What are you grounded to? What kind of earth is it? What does it feel like? What is the temperature? Is it scratchy? Is it smooth? Is it rough? Is it stable enough that it doesn't give way at all? Or is it just give way just a little bit when you push into it? Plant your feet or your bottom or your knees or however it is that you are into your ground, whatever surface that might be. And you are going to very firmly just kind of attach yourself to it. And you're going to kind of push with your hands, start with your legs, push with your hands, just push any tension, any tightness, any uncertainty, any anxiety, any pain, just kind of push it out, and the ground absorbs it like a sponge. The water washes it away, it's taken from you, and then you start moving away up a little bit more. Now you can start in your abdominal region at your navel chakra and push from there and push any tension out, and you're just kind of working your way. You don't want to start at the top. I know that a lot of people teach this, and what I found is that when I start at the top with a grounding, it's almost harder to get my root to clear. Like there's just so much. So I'm just kind of working through, and I'm allowing all of this energy to move through my body in stages. It's like I'm taking the tangles out of some long hair. Just start at the bottom, and you work a little bit up, you work a little bit up, and you work a little bit up. So you're doing that same thing, and you are slowly clearing and pushing all this energy in. Now, as you get up to this top, now you're going to take stock of up here, your crown chakra and your third eye. There's a light glow that comes from your crown, and there is a beautiful violet glow that comes from your third eye. You want to visualize these, and as you visualize these, clear them away. Open them up and pull in all of that sacred energy, and allow that energy to just pour through you, pour through your crown, lighting up your third eye with that beautiful violet, opening up your throat chakra with that beautiful indigo color, moving into your heart with that beautiful green light filling in. Now remember, we have to let love in to feel loved. We're not going to feel love just by giving it. We have to let it in. You have to let others love you to feel that there. So as you're feeling that, and then you're moving into your solar plexus, beautiful golden light, and it's pulling into your navel, that beautiful orange light, moving into your root with that rich red light, pushing all the way through your body, all the way out through your toes into the ground. So this light is completing a cycle. It's coming down, it's washing through you, and then it's grounding into the ground. You remain in this as long as you feel comfortable or necessary. 5 to 10 minute meditation is more than enough to set a person for a week, I promise you. It doesn't require much, it just requires a little bit. So grounding. Now, do you feel a little bit more centered? I feel more centered. I was just working along. So, shielding. This is another tough one, because especially for naturally empathic people, you want to pull this energy in. As you're pulling this energy in, you're realizing that not all of it is grounded, and you need to limit that in some way. We have to find some protective field of energy or method or technique, because even though you can ground all the time, if you also don't shield some of it, it can become quite a bit. So the next thing that happens in that 3 process is, now we are well grounded, and if you have the time, I recommend that you do the second part as well, and you start recognizing that energy that you've had flowing through your body right now. This is clear, pure energy. All the tension, all the struggles and difficulties have passed through your body already. Now you're emanating this healthier energy, this good energy, and you want to fortify it. You want to see it literally get stronger out of your pores, surrounding you, like sinking into a bath of this protective light, just completely coating and covering you and getting bigger and stronger and more vibrant. Now, with this light, it is a filter, not a block. Imagine that and know that when you're feeling this, that everything you need to know to continue on your journey always come to you. And anything you don't need to know or anything that needs to be taken from you or steered out of you will be bounced off of you, bounced away from you, and it will not be coming through. That will help redirect some of the negativity that you may have been feeling coming your way too often. And especially when we start feeling that it's happening that way, it does seem to happen more often. And so this is a great way for you to emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically fortify your energy. I am not going to even pay attention to anything that I know isn't right for me and good for me. I only need to focus on these things and these good people and these good situations and these opportunities that I'm being afforded right now, and all of this other stuff doesn't affect me. And it doesn't. And it will get easier. Now, there's another type of technique that I use that I don't know what it's called in other situations, but I call it cloaking. Cloaking for me is a way for me to be in a space without being as energetically present when I don't have the emotional energy, when I don't have the spoons to per se to deal with others or to get in, engage any conversation even. What I like to do is I like to take my little orb of light and I like to cloak it with just, I imagine something of an invisibility type cloak where you just kind of, it could be a shell, it could be like an eggshell, it could be however you see it, whatever you see as a protective layer that would stop. It could be your lead box that keeps your energy from going out beyond your space so that it's not noticed by others. It's really beneficial to getting through the grocery store without running into 37 people. It's very helpful. You just turn it off and you know that your energy is not coming through in a way that would attract people as it normally would. Especially if you find yourself drawing people when you're particularly not wanting to be drawn to them. So cloaking is another beneficial technique. If you get really good at it, you can have a pretty nice, peaceful day. I very much enjoy it. I can walk all the way through the city and not a single person will even speak to me. I don't do it all the time, but sometimes it's nice. The final thing that I wanted to talk about today was cord cutting. So cord cutting, I have like little hairs on my face flying around. Cord cutting is necessary when we experience, especially when we experience some trauma bonding, but when we experience a period of life with an individual and there is a deep connection there to that person, especially relating to that specific experience. So if you've, for example, say you are in a relationship while you are both financially struggling tremendously, okay? The relationship is almost dependent upon that struggle, and the two of you work through it and become much better off as a result. At some point, you get to a place where now this relationship the struggle isn't there, and there really isn't anything else anymore because it was so dependent on that for so long. There was no other things to connect with. So at this point, from the outsider's perspective, the person says, "Why don't you leave?" And the person says, "Well, I can't leave. We've been through all these things together." Well, that doesn't mean you can't leave. You're like, I can't, like, physically, like, I just feel like I can't leave this person. I can't, because it's almost, you almost feel as though you're trying to ignore that time, like that didn't happen, and that's not what this is about. There is a cord here connected to this individual because of these life experiences and these traumas and these memories. It does not hurt the memory, the experience, the lessons learned from the situation to cut the emotional cord so that you can heal from that and move forward. And when you cut the cord, you are also allowing that person the freedom to emotionally heal from that time in the life and then move forward and grow from it. And then when you're both healed people and you see each other again, you have that bond. You can't change that bond. You know what you went through together. You can always have that person's back. You can always love them. It can always be a good thing to see and be in their company without it keeping you locked into that place. Sometimes we have to cut the cord in order to heal and move on, and sometimes it's necessary for both partners, or even more so if you're poly. So cord cutting, it's really important. And how do we do this? First, you have to really get honest with yourself about what the connection is with that person. Did they pick you up when you were down? Did you pick them up when they were down? Did you pick each other up when you were both down? Did you endure trauma? Did you? Now, and I say trauma, and sometimes I'm talking about very, very serious situations, and sometimes I'm talking about what it's like to not know if you're going to have dinner tomorrow and go through that week after week after week after week after week. That's trauma too. To not know how you're going to feed yourself or your family. That's trauma too. So when I speak of trauma, I don't speak of just a car accident or somebody was beaten or robbed or murdered. I'm talking about life can be traumatic, especially when we're trying to survive. So you have to be honest about what your connection is to that person. Are you struggling together? Did they have your back in a fight? Be honest about it, and then put yourself back in there. And remember, but look at it differently. Look at it fondly. Look at it like, we had this. And this is what it did for us. This is how it changed us. This is how we grew from it. This is where we are today. And then you visualize this memory as a very thin, silvery white light cord between you and this person. And you know that when you clip that cord, that does not erase the memory. It just allows both of you to heal in the ways that you need to. Now, every time you have another experience with this person in the future, you're going to create a new cord, a new memory. So it's not like you're not going to have any cords. It's just this cord. Now, sometimes we could clip that cord and that person isn't in our life the same way anymore because they have to go off and do what they need to do. That means that you're now supposed to do what you're going off to do the next step too. You're going to make new memories and you're going to have new cords. And some of them don't need to be clipped. Some of them are really good and you can keep them forever because they don't hold you back. They don't take you to a person that you aren't anymore, or to a place that you don't live anymore. Because sometimes when you live with a person through trauma and through struggle, and you're with that person for years and years and years, even after the trauma and the struggle, if things don't change very drastically and you don't seek a lot of help together and really work through it together, you're still living emotionally, mentally, and spiritually in that struggle, even long past it. And so your relationship will be based on it with that person. And I'm not talking just romantic, I'm also talking all kinds of love, platonic included. So your friend spend or whoever you need to tell this, that we need to move past this. This is it. And especially in cases where the abuse is very severe, but it's not something that you're able to escape from. So people who are survivors of domestic abuse know this very well, that even when you do get away from them, it takes a long time for you to stop defending them, because it's almost like you're defending yourself. They're saying, well, this person's, well, he's not that bad. It's like, because they're saying this person's so terrible, it's like they're admitting that they just left you there. So you defend them, and you go through all of these things in order to defend them and emotionally break it down and come up with excuses and all of this, and really you are reliving it over and over. And it's a cycle that you continue because you are attached at this cord with this toxic situation, because to connect it, you think, is to deny what you went through, or to deny your value, or to even to make that person in your mind finally responsible for what they did. And it's painful sometimes to clip the cord. So the mental process, the emotional, spiritual process is very similar. And I recommend that if you're going to do this process, that you spend a great deal of time, you go into nature in a place where you can be at peace. And if you have some really helpful support, have that person with you so that they can just be there while you go through this process, and you get yourself first grounded. Once you've gotten through your grounding and you're feeling very secure and very stable and very full of love and light, you will be able to reinforce that shield as strong as it needs to be to keep you together. And then you can hone in on that one particular memory, that one particular cord that bonds you to this person. And once you snip it, you can feel it retract back to you. And it's now your ownership. You're now claiming ownership of that. It's also their experience to claim ownership of, but that is not yours to heal. Yours is here. And once you've healed yours, you can always reach back out and make sure that that person has healed as well, if you had any fault or whatever the situation may be. But sometimes we need to clip it and have that space in order first to heal. So those are the 3 techniques, 4 techniques, I suppose, that I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to go through that reading. So if you happen to miss the first part, I went through a 5-card reading with the Pentacle Spread and the Starman deck. And once I do end the stream, you can start it at the beginning and hear that full reading, as well as the breakdown of the grounding, shielding, cloaking, and cord cutting techniques. These are all for dealing with trauma predominantly, dealing with hardship, dealing with transition periods in your life where you have gotten a little stuck and it's feeling a little heavy. And so there's a lot in this reading about lightening that burden and how to proceed without adding more burden to it along the way, and how to deal with the balance of all of it. If anybody does want me to pull any cards beyond this, please just let me know. I'll hang out for a minute. If you would like a private reading, I have 2 private readings I have to do after this stream anyway. So if there's anybody who wants a private reading, please just let me know. You can contact me by all the little things on the screen. I'm pretty much Nikki Anarchy or Nikki Anarchy 333 everywhere. So you can find me, reach out if you'd like a direct reading. I do have a pay what you can pay scale. Um, my full 15 card readings are $25, and they're fully confidential. We don't bring them to any of these conversations, of course, unless you choose to. If you learned some lesson and want to talk about it, that's up to you. But I do plan on doing more polls, more full readings, more breakdowns of various subjects. Tomorrow morning, I would. Hi, Virgil. I'm so glad you could make it. So tomorrow morning, I'm gonna touch on vision boards, which is like the trend that I see everywhere now. I first heard the term vision board probably 15 years ago, so it's really fascinating for me to see it really popular right now. But I see it as like really common pitfalls. People are just, it's such a great tool if you know what you're doing. It's just, I feel like a lot of the law of attraction, secret kind of like teachers miss a lot because the concepts that are in there are very old concepts. These are old esoteric stuff. This is not some new thing, but they've missed the teachings that you have to have in order to learn how to use it. There are lessons along the way, and as I talked about in the reading earlier, there are consequences to everything. So you have to be able to weigh it out. Nothing is always going to be great. So yeah, I have a stream for tomorrow. I will do a new poll, and then I will talk about vision boards. I'm also open to different subjects, whether it is in regards to tarot and readings or anything to do with the occult or practice of any kind of craft that you yourself practice. I'm fairly well versed, but I'm always open to learn too. So I'd love to have guests on. I can talk about anything to do with manifesting as well. I have a great deal of experience and background. I have lots of stories of manifesting. So, or it could just be an ask me anything, but any kind of subject matter that you might want to learn about, throw me a suggestion. I would absolutely love to tackle it in a future stream. I'm trying to do a wide variety of time frames and days. I'm going to always do a Wednesday night late. I'm probably always going to do a Sunday morning. I don't know when I'm going to do my third or fourth stream during the week yet. So if there's a day or a time that you think would be really, really awesome for me to do this and you would love to catch it, just throw me that suggestion as well, and I'll try to accommodate the best I can because even though it is nice to just do the reading and then have people check it out later, it's also a lot of fun to have the chat. And we had a lot of fun on the third. I had a number of people that were very talkative, and we had some really good conversations, and it was very warm and welcoming and safe space. And that's what I'm looking for. I want people to be able to talk about a little bit of whatever they're dealing with and in whatever realm of understanding they're currently working in. You know, we're all doing it differently, and we have different understandings and different journeys to compare to. So there's no right or wrong answer. And whatever you're feeling, whatever you're doing is what we can work on. And if I can help you with that in any way, I'm happy to do that as well. So I think I'm going to cut out my stream. I will definitely be on tomorrow morning, as I said. So if anyone's interested in hearing what I really think about the vision board teachers, um, what people are missing with their vision boards, how I've used them in the past. I've got a couple of experiences with using them and what works and what doesn't work. We're going to talk about what doesn't work too, because I think we got to be fair here. It doesn't always work. People need to understand why if it's going to be any good to you. So that's where I'm headed with it. And thank you for joining in. I hope you get a chance to check out the full stream. It's only a little over an hour long. You can probably cut past the first few minutes. And it will be up here for your viewing whenever you have time, as will all the other ones. And eventually I will put them all up on my YouTube channel as well. I keep saying that with several of my projects. I'm not a fast video editor. Oh my gosh. Videos take so long. But thank you anyway, and I hope you were well. I hope this helps you, this reading. It helped me a lot today. So, much love, many blessings, and have a great afternoon.